Welcome to Pine Thicket Philosophies, the non-podcast podcast where we do everything the podcast experts tell you not to do. If you are looking for a finely polished and professional podcast crew, well, folks, we ain't it. But if you want to virtually join a group of old outdoorsmen from southern Appalachia, as we sit around the fire and talk about any one of our favorite topics, we'll pour a cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and enjoy. She says she just told me that recording was in progress. So, all right, how's everybody doing tonight?
Good, doing wonderful.
Good. This will be our second attempt at a Zoom. Last time we had Dan from Southern Paddler on. So joining me tonight is Josh, and y'all know Josh. Josh does a lot of our trips with us. He's been in almost as many of my videos as I have been. And then, of course, y'all, most of you that know me know Crow, because Crow has been in several of my videos. We've done several different adventures together now, at least 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And I mean, we stay in contact pretty regular. We text and all the time commenting on each other's videos and everything. So that's, I was trying to remember a while ago, Crow, how did we connect? I know we did on social media, but I don't remember if you found my channel or if I found your channel. I don't remember how that happened.
I think I found your number on a bathroom wall.
Well, I should have known. No, I
think it was on YouTube. I don't remember if you saw my channel, but I just recognized you from Alabama. So I thought, well, there's not that many of us YouTubing from Alabama.
Right. And then I think you started the Alabama backpackers and YouTubers group on Facebook. And I think there's still a few people post on that every once in a while. And from that, then me, you, Josh, Dan, and Squidly got together and went on a kayaking trip. And I won't ever forget, my wife was like, do you even know these guys? And I'm like, oh, babe, I watch them all the time on YouTube. She's like, well, what are their names? And I'm like, Crow and Squidly. And of course I had met Dan by that time, but my wife and Josh's wife are good friends, and they were just like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe these idiots are going camping with somebody they don't, with people they don't even know. But we ended up having a really good time. I believe Squidly brought his son, didn't he?
Yeah, he bought what was his trail name they called him?
Creepy Rob Lowe.
Creepy Rob Lowe. Yeah.
I thought it was Big Fist.
No, that's my son.
Yeah, that's his son.
Oh, that's your son. Okay.
Yeah. Creepy Rob Lowe. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, I knew that, that old adage of there can't be 2 mass murderers on a trip. So what's the chances? So I thought
astronomical.
Yeah. Well, we had a really good time, and matter of fact, some footage from that made it into my latest video, just that was released last night. I think it published last night at like midnight or something.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that trip a little bit, but we've done the Cahaba Lilies together. We did I think your wife and your youngest son came on that trip, Sawyer, right?
Yeah.
And that was the trip that some of the Cross Paddles bunch from North Carolina came down and went with us. And the lilies were beautiful. The water was, that was a different story. Getting through those shoals was rough.
It was like ragged and jagged kind of.
Rock, yes, and it not enough water to float, but it was too slick to stand up. I don't know how many times I failed. I fell one time right in front of a group of people, and the old saying, if you wonder if you're old or not, fall in front of a group of people, and if they laugh at you, you're still young. And I fell so hard that it scared all of them. Even the little kids came running. I mean, I hit hard. The lilies were beautiful, and
They were.
once we got out of the shoals, it was a beautiful paddle.
Yeah.
It was a good time. We had a good time on that trip. Josh, you got any comments, any questions, anything in mind?
Well, I didn't get to go on that trip to the Lilies, because I was recovering from the trip to Cumberland Island. But
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that. I'd forgotten that
why
was right after that.
yeah, that's why I didn't go, because I was still trying to figure out my whole eating and stuff like that. But yeah, you just talking about that your video that dropped last night. Yeah, I noticed that part of our trip before when we were huffing and puffing on the side of the mountain.
Yeah.
It was quite a view, though.
Yeah. Oh, it was. It's a beautiful view. It's I'm fortunate, or Josh and I are fortunate to live where we do. We've got some beautiful scenery up here. So
I'll never forget that was one of my favorite camping nights. It was perfect weather.
Weather was perfect.
And we had that big fire roaring. I think Josh had gotten that the wood that smelled. Was it chestnut? What was it, Josh? It smelled so good.
Pecan.
It was pecan. That's it.
Yeah.
I just remember sitting by that fire thinking, man, it doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah, it was that. I mean, the weather was perfect. It really was we just had a good trip. It was just all the way around a good trip. Crow, what have you got going on? What kind of trips have you got going to be going on in the next little while?
Well, my big trip, I like to go out west in the summer. So I'm going to do a section of the Colorado Trail in July, August. I've never done any part of Colorado hiking. Just I did one 14er years ago, back when I still had good knees. And this time we're going to do about 7 days on the Colorado Trail. But the coolest part, I think, is we're going to fly in, drive to Durango, and get on the train that goes across the mountain back up to Silverton. I'm excited about that more than anything, more than the hiking, really, just to get on the train.
Shoot, yeah. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that will be cool. We've been to Colorado several times. Shannon has several cousins. The Colorado Trail. Which section are you doing? How far are you going to be going?
I think it's about 85. So we'll start in Silverton and head south to Durango, and that is the end or the start of the Colorado Trail, whichever way you look at it, in Durango. And so we'll do. When I asked around, because I wanted to do a section, somebody told us that lives out there, hey, if you're going to do one, that's what I asked. If I'm going to do one section, what would it be? They said Silverton to Durango. So I hear we're going to be climbing the first 2 days, then be on ridges for the next few days, and then heading down to Durango.
That's awesome.
But the thing I'm concerned about, and I'm looking at purchasing one of those, what do you call them? Ursacks or things, those Kevlar bags, because we'll be camping above tree line some of the time. And so, unless I carry a bear canister, the Ursack, is that how you pronounce it? Ursack?
I've heard it. Ursack.
Yeah.
Ursack.
Yeah.
Unless I have that, that's looks like my only option. They're a little expensive, but yeah. I'm gonna try it.
I bought, before we went to, Josh was actually with me when I ran across this. I bought at Unclaimed Baggage. I was walking in one day, we were looking around. I looked up way up on the top shelf up there, and I thought, what is that? And then it dawned on me what it was. And it was one of those bear canisters.
Yeah.
And I bought that for our trip out to or up to the Yukon, because there's not any trees up there to hang in, and there's grizzlies up there. So I had that with my food in it, and then I bought one of the medium-sized Ursac, and I had all just my snacks in it. And then I had them both in just a dry bag that I could just take and, kind of take away from camp and, strap it to a tree or something, just to kind of keep them both together. Of course, if a bear wanted to get in there, he was just going to rip that dry bag open. But we never had any problems with, everybody talked about we would have a lot of problems with raccoons and mice and, the squirrels and stuff. We never had any at all. But the barricade that I bought is the next to the largest size. And
okay,
it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. I was tickled with it. It's up there on that top shelf. I don't think I might can reach it.
Here's my extra Crow Flies hiking sticker right here.
All right, dude. Yes, sir.
That's where I hang all my stickers that I hadn't got nothing to put them on yet.
Okay.
Every one of them. I got some River Kings and everything else right there.
There's that Ursac that I bought. I'm gonna have to take my headphones off to get my bear canister. Hang on just a second.
It's a pretty nice canister he got, and he got it cheap compared to what it cost new.
Yeah, and those things are basically indestructible, right? I mean,
yeah,
they're hard to break.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
I can't get it down. It's stuck up there.
Oh.
I'm gonna have to get something to climb on to get it down.
I was about to say, you're too short.
I'm too short. Yeah, well, it's all the way up against the ceiling up there, so I can just barely touch the bottom of it.
I like y'all's gear closet. This is where y'all keep all the gear for all your adventures?
It's where I keep most of it. This room that I'm in, when we built our house, I told Shannon, I said, I'm going to do a 10 by 12 office because I was in business at that time and I was running my own business. And I said, I need to, have a place to do all that. And I said, everything else in the house is yours, but this is going to be mine. And I ended up getting a really good deal. All of this, it's all cedar on these two walls. And a friend of mine so all this is stored in cedar. And so
nice.
It keeps it smelling pretty fresh. But all of that I built that out of cedar. And then I've got a cabinet over here that's got, well, you can kind of see I got a bench here that has storage in and under it, bookshelves, and this room is just cram packed. My wife just sticks her head in every once in a while and goes, oh.
Yeah. My room, it actually used to be my daughter's bedroom. And she had, like, when we remodeled the house, we took 2 bedrooms and made one. And she had one like sitting room, one bedroom. Well, she wanted a bunch of shelves and stuff. So we put all this closet system in. When she got married and moved out, I'm like, I know where all my camping,
there you go,
kayaking,
take it over,
and biking stuff's going. So I took this room over.
It's where I keep all my stuff stored. I try to keep it neat, but about 3-4 times a year, I have to come in and just take everything out, reorganize.
Yeah, reorganize. I'm constantly in that state with all my gear and stuff. But y'all do multiple types of adventures. Most of my adventures are just backpacking, but y'all got all kinds of adventures going on.
I'm not niche enough. I don't just do one thing. You may tune into my channel and I may be flying somewhere to go on a fly-in road trip, travel, or we may be kayaking, or we may be canoeing or biking or hiking, or just doing what we call truck camping, but now the social media world calls it overlanding. We do a good bit of that as well. And so you just never know what you're going to get with us. And,
I like that. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, some people like that. Some people don't. I don't do it for the subscribers. If I did it for the subscribers, I would have quit a long time ago. I do it because we enjoy it. It's fun to do this. It's fun to sit around and talk to people. And it's fun to go out and do adventures like we did last weekend, And so we
and when we're telling a story about something that you've done, like a bike wreck, we go, well, let me just pull it up on YouTube. It's right here. It's what happened right here.
We got it.
Just show them.
Yeah, that made it into the video too from last weekend. So I do believe this is the quickest I have ever done a video turnaround.
I haven't even seen it yet. I had heard rumors today that there was a video through certain stuff, but I hadn't seen it yet, so I got to go watch it.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
I bet
I was tickled. It turned out pretty good, and it was one of those that everything just sometimes I sit down to do a video and start doing the editing, and it just doesn't go. It just doesn't flow. It just doesn't. Man, I sat down to do that one Sunday evening, and today's Wednesday, so I finished it Monday, and I worked on it a couple of hours on Sunday, and then I worked on it maybe an hour or so on Monday, and I do believe Josh, probably you might can correct me, but I do believe that's the quickest I've ever had a turnaround on a video.
I believe it is.
I mean, most of the time it may be a year before I get a video put out on a trip, but I just thought, hey, I'm gonna do this one while it's fresh, and while that, I'm gonna rip that Band-Aid off for Larry. So if I guess we can just go ahead and talk about that trip. So I don't know how long ago it was, but Larry has been talking about this trail. He's been following its development. He's been on it for years, and he knew it was coming, and he has been after me for years. But what we've talked about in the past was we were going to mountain bike we were going to mountain bike all of it that you can. Like you can't mountain bike Sitting Gulch Trail. You can't ride that part because there's stairs.
You could go down it.
You go down it pretty fast in some parts.
Yeah.
That would be a video in and of itself.
It'd be a little jarry, but you could do it.
Yeah. But he had told me I want to ride it. I want to ride it all at one time. And so when he messaged me and said, hey, this thing's open. Let's do it. Let's do it all in one day. And I thought he was still talking about bike riding. And I'm like, sure, So I bought my permit and all this. And then he got to talk about it. And Matthew was in the group with us. Josh, we were all in a group message. And he was, then all of a sudden we're hiking. And I was like, wait, I thought we were biking this, So anyway, when he said that, I was like, I know a guy that would probably enjoy this adventure. And so I talked it over to Larry, of course, because this was Larry's deal, this was his baby. He did the work on it. Man, he had, as Mr. Poe calls it, he had Papa Smurfed it to death. He had the itinerary and he had it just, it was awesome. And so, I asked him, you care if I give Crow a holler? And he was like, heck no, call him. So I invited Crow, and that was probably a month ago, maybe 2 months ago.
Maybe 2. Yeah. Cause I had never heard of it and never even, I knew that there were trails up there, but had no idea they connected, and then had no idea that it just had started 6-8 months ago. I was just fascinated by the whole thing.
It's I want to go back down to the Lula Lake. I didn't, I'd never heard much about it. It turns out my sister lives in Rising Fawn, and she goes over there all the time. And she was telling me about it Sunday when I got back. We went up to visit with my parents, and she was telling me all about it. Her and her husband go there all the time. And I was like, well, I'd never heard of it. So, but it's, the whole trail is called the River to Clouds Trail. And technically, I guess it starts in Chattanooga, Tennessee at the southern terminus of the Tennessee Riverwalk. And it goes all the way over Lookout Mountain, and a good ways down Lookout Mountain, but over and into Trenton, Georgia, and ends at the Sitting Gulch Trail in Cloudland State Park. But we did it the opposite way. We started in Trenton because that's where we live, closer to Trenton. So we started in Trenton and hiked north into the, and well, I guess I'll just go ahead and give it away, almost to the Tennessee River Trail or Tennessee River Walk. I knew going in, me and Larry had already planned, because we knew that we felt like people would be dropping out. And I knew that I was not going to be capable. And the farther I pushed, the slower I would be getting, and I would be holding them back. And in order to finish, they had to keep a 3 mile an hour pace. And I believe y'all managed to do that the whole time, didn't you, Crow?
Yeah, I think Leonidas said 2.9 or something was the average. So we were right at it, is what I understood.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He had said
that's pretty good.
Yeah. And so I had decided early, before we ever left, that I was going to hike the first section with them, and then I was going to go back and get my truck, and we were going to leapfrog. Larry's wife, Shanda, they do this kind of thing a lot, but she was a rolling aid station for us. She would go to every crossing and would have water. And I think the furthest you guys hiked was about 6 miles, 5.7, something like that. And she would do all of the, she would be sitting there waiting, and everybody would come in. And that way, everybody just had to carry a real light pack. They didn't have to pack a lot of water, and they didn't have to carry filters or anything like that. She had water and everything for them. And but I was leapfrogging my truck ahead, and then I would walk, catch back up with them, walk a section, leapfrog my truck ahead. Some of the other guys had hiked the Sitting Gulch part, excuse me, but then they couldn't climb the stairs. They were having some asthma problems, and so they turned around and went back to my truck. And so all along, some were skipping, some were jumping in, some were, doing this and doing that. I knew that I would probably hike the least amount, and I ended up with 11 miles. I think one of the other guys that came with Matthew hiked 14, another one hiked 18, but he was struggling. His knee was really bothering him. And then Josh was the next. Josh pulled out, but he managed to get 27.2 constant.
Yep, 27
without skipping any sections. He did 27.2 constant at a 3 mile an hour pace. And I as bad as I hate to brag on Josh, I've had to brag on him because I was impressed. Of course, Josh has lost about 40 pounds since the last time he hiked, so he kind of felt like he was traveling pretty good. And then Matthew and Wilson were planning to pull off at the last aid station, and we thought that aid station was about 2 miles. But then Larry had said that he knew that, I don't know how far up the trail you guys had passed the cannon. Do you remember how far that was, Crow?
It was a ways back, so I think there was only probably about a mile left.
Yeah,
when we got to the all-pay station.
That's what I was thinking, and that's what Larry had said. That's what he was actually saying, right before. So, but at each stop, before the group left out, Shanda would take a picture of who was left in the group. So she has a whole series of, from each stop. And so we're getting ready to move on. And I'm over there strapping the water cooler and stuff back down on the back of her car. And I hear people, they're lined up taking their picture, and I hear people go, "Oh, whoa, 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 whoa," and I turn around just in time to see Larry go, and he he thinks his electrolytes got out of whack, which is probably so. He said he didn't feel like he was taking in enough electrolytes, and but he said he was feeling fine, and then all of a sudden he was waking up, and so it scared us. It scared us all, and but Crow and Leonidas at that time, and we haven't even talked about Leonidas being there yet, but Crow and Leonidas at that time decided that was enough. We'll let's take care of Larry, and which Larry was fine. That's not the first time Larry's ever passed out. Larry and Shanda do all kinds of trail running events and races and all kinds of stuff. So he matter of fact, he got up. I don't know if Crow knows this or not. He got up the next morning and said that he had to work soreness out, so he went and hiked 6 miles Sunday morning.
Dang. Wow.
Yeah.
So he said, I had to work the soreness out of my legs. So he got up and hiked 6 miles. And I'm like, you're crazy. But, he's fine. And Larry is the one, any of you that have ever watched any of my videos, Larry is the one that tries to give me the absolute hardest time about anything that he can find to give me a hard time about, me and Josh both. And so now that me and Josh finally have something worthy of gouging him with, he knew it was going to make it into the video. So he was not surprised at all. He was probably surprised that I waited until the very end to put that part in there, even though it happened at the end of the video. But he's fine. We've talked to him several times, and he's gonna try. He's already talking about trying it. He's gonna do a redemption hike. He wants to do it again in the fall. He said
Okay.
he wants to do it again in like November. So he says that it'll be cooler, and he won't have those problems with electrolytes, I think is what he told Matthew and them. So
if I do it, I'm gonna do some practice beforehand, kind of get my walking legs on.
Yeah. I need to do some training, no doubt. I need to do some bad. Oof, Lord.
Yeah, Josh, hadn't you said that was the last time you had hiked was in Cumberland Island, right?
Yeah.
And that Cumberland Island was the first time he'd ever hiked.
Yeah.
Do 27 miles
was
amazing.
On his second hike ever.
Yeah.
I do walk a lot at work.
Yeah, but that's a whole lot different. You take 5 or 6 steps over here and stop 7 or 8 steps back. Yeah. That's why I was so, that's why I've had to say I've got to brag on him, because that was only the second time he's ever been hiking. Really hiking. We'll go do stuff like, we went to the Pinnacle that time. I think we've done that a couple of times, which, by the way, is not an easy hike, but
no,
it's nothing like doing 27 miles. So,
well, I was bound and determined to do it all. I had my mind made up. I'm doing this. I'm not going to wimp out. But that last 2 miles before I got to Covenant, I was like, I'm done. Then we got to where there's 1 mile left, and everybody was waiting on me because I was pulling up the tail end, and Leonidas is like, "We'll let you lead." I'm like, all right. Of course, everybody passed me within like 100 yards, and I knew 1 mile to go. I was like, I am done when I get to the truck.
Yeah,
because it was just like I kept getting slower and slower.
Well, that last section was pretty much uphill to Covenant, so it was kind of messed with your mind too, because it was a big elevation gain through that section.
Yeah, it was. It was a constant, just gradual uphill climb.
You mentioned Leonidas. That's the reason he came was because I called him because the week before I'd gone to Savage Gulf in Tennessee and I cramped up and almost didn't make it up. I was fine, but I cramped up and had to sit down for a while and was just on the struggle bus. And so I called Leonidas before this trip and I said, "Hey man, give me some nutrition advice for this trip. And he said, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Man, I don't even know. This is something Brad Moore called me about. I don't know what it is, but it sounds fun. Let's do it." And that's when I texted Brad and Larry and said, "Hey, can he come?" Knowing that he was going to, hike laps around me, but he gave me the nutrition advice basically to get me through it by taking salt tablets, taking electrolytes all day. And then I ate every hour on the hour so that I keep my calories up. And I think that helped me, especially those salt tablets, because I didn't sweat out my fluids as quickly, I think.
Right. Right. He, Leonidas, for those of you that don't know, I mentioned it in the video. I didn't know Leonidas was coming until about lunch on Friday. And I was like, oh my gosh, because Leonidas doesn't have a whole lot of videos on YouTube. He's got several, but I don't think he focuses a whole lot on YouTube anymore, does he?
No.
Yeah. Because he focuses on kicking tail on the trail. That dude, I've never seen anything like it. And I've been around a lot of people that hike and stuff. But he like studies how different nutrients break down, and how it's amazing to talk to him. I asked him, and this isn't in the video, so I'll share it here, but I asked him, I said, what's your PR? What's your personal best for longest hiking in a day? And he kind of stammered around and was like, well, it's almost a little embarrassing because it took me 18 and a half hours of moving time to do it. But, I hiked 54 miles one day, and I was like, what? I mean, guys, for those of you that live in our area, that's like going from Pisgah to Huntsville in one day walking. And and when you do the math, 18 and a half hours, that's 3 miles an hour. So for 54 miles, he averaged 3 miles an hour. Yeah. That's just amazing. But we were parked at Lula Lake. We were parked at the parking area, and we'd been there for a while because I think that was your longest section. So we had been there for a good while, and we would see people park, and they would come in, and you could see that they went down a hill, but I couldn't really see where we were parked and all. You couldn't really see where they were going and all that, but you could see they went down a hill. Well, those people would go down the hill, and then 20 minutes later, they would come back and just be nearly crawling back to their, and I was like, boy, that must be a bad hill. Must be a bad hill right here before you get to parking lot. So I had already talked to the guys that was in the truck with me about that. And we were sitting there watching. All of a sudden, here comes Leonidas just bebopping up through there. Wasn't sweating, wasn't breathing hard. He looked like he had just got up from an afternoon nap. And he had already hiked, I think at that point, it was about 23 or 24 miles at that point. And climbed that hill that we had watched all these other people struggle to get up. And he was fine. I mean, it did not faze him. And I asked him, I said, did you ever get winded on this 35-mile hike? And he was like, well, I think one time my heart rate got up to almost to 150. And I thought the whole time I was on the trail, mine was like at 180, So it was crazy. I got a couple of questions, Crow, before we sign off here. So as I said earlier, I don't like to do a lot of show prep. I just kind of, as you can probably tell, because we're just kind of rambling around all over the place, but I just kind of like it that way because it's more like we're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
But I did think of 3 questions. I had to run to Walmart real quick when I got off the bus and when we logged on here. And I thought of 3 questions while I was driving down there. What's it going to take to get you to bring back the Old Crow Hiking Show?
Oh man, I hadn't thought about that in a couple of years.
It's been a while. Did I interview you on one of them?
Uh-huh. I sure did, didn't I? When we did the Cahaba Lilies.
The Cahaba Lilies, yes, because we were in our boats out in the middle
Yeah,
of the river.
I need to do that again. You know, when I just need to get it back together, and I don't even remember the 10 questions I asked, but I could go find them. I guess look at the videos.
Yeah, you can look at videos. He used to do this thing called, and it was just a short little video. He would ask the same 10 questions to everybody, and you had some really good guests on. I mean, I look at the other guests and I look at me and I go, why am I on here with these guys? But
you look real good in your Yukon sitting there in the Cahaba. That looked really cool to me.
Yeah, it was just a cool location. And you interviewed Dan on the same trip.
Same trip. Yeah, on the side of the
river.
Cahaba, yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. But I think you did what, 15 or so different episodes of it?
I think so. Yeah. Just had the idea and went for it for a while, and then, you know, just kind of lost interest in it, but I need to bring it back. I'm glad you said that. I need to bring it back.
Yeah. And also, whatever, did you just kind of phase out of it or just outgrow it? But I remember when I first started watching you always had a question of the video.
You know, I don't know what happened to that. I think I either ran out of questions or I'm just getting senile and forget to do it on the videos.
I was thinking about that. You know, I always waited for those questions.
Yeah.
And I always tried to see how snappy of a comeback I could get for you. But, you know, they've just kind of, you know, just phased out, I guess.
I remember Josh has answered some of the questions before in the other videos. I remember on the comments.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's no telling what you're going to get out of Josh.
I was actually kind of wondering on this last trip if Backpacker Bob was going to show up. Lord.
And then my third question: everybody that has watched very many of Crow's videos. They know how he feels about 80s rock, hair bands, and everybody knows that Van Halen's his favorite.
Yes.
Right. All right. So I've got and the reason I'm asking you about this is because Shannon and I have been watching this special, but I've never heard you mention Bon Jovi.
I love Bon Jovi.
Oh yeah. There we go. I started to say that your answer is going to affect Shannon's opinion of you.
Uh-oh.
We, you know, growing up, you know, Shannon and I married young. So growing up, we didn't do a whole lot of concerts and stuff. So the first time we ever saw them live was the Bounce tour in 2000. I think that's about 2002, somewhere in there. And the last tour, I guess in 2020, she was just like, I just, you know, we had been to every one of them up until then. And she was like, it's just not the same without Richie. I don't think I want to go.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. So, but we've been watching that. She actually subscribed and she watched the first few episodes or the first 2 episodes Friday night while we were camping of that Bon Jovi, Thank You, Good Night, the Bon Jovi story. It's on Hulu.
Yeah, it's on Hulu or whatever.
Yeah. Now, if you've got Hulu, that I've really enjoyed it. We finished episode 3 last night, and so when we got off here, we're gonna go in there and try to watch episode 4 tonight if we can stay awake. But I've learned, you know, and I thought I knew a lot about Bon Jovi, but like I did not realize that. You know, in the 90s, you know, they just kind of fell off here. But, you know, they actually sold more albums in the 90s worldwide, and they were touring everywhere in the 90s. But 90s radio in America wouldn't even play them.
Yeah. I wonder if that was about the time that Richie, you know, I don't, it wasn't this documentary, it was another documentary I saw where Richie just didn't show up for a show one night. And they had to just cancel it. I don't know if it's in this one. But.
Well, the episode 3 last night cut off. That was the end of it. Was where Richie just didn't show up, and so but yeah, of course, there's been a lot of documentaries, but this one goes back in time, but then it's them today. Like, I don't know if you knew, I didn't realize, but in 2022, after he finished the tour, he had to have vocal surgery. And he went like 5 months and couldn't sing a note. And
Wow.
he's so they're going back and forth, and of course they're interviewing David and Tico, and and all of those guys, Hugh and Phil X, all those guys. They're interviewing all of them, and it has really, I've really enjoyed it. So I was kind of looking forward to finishing up with it tonight, but I knew that you would enjoy it if you hadn't seen it yet.
Well, see, to me, Bon Jovi is one of those unique bands like Aerosmith and like Def Leppard that they would reinvent themselves with a new album to kind of recog the machine so that they could continue to be relevant.
Yeah.
Aerosmith was the greatest at that. I mean, who would have known they would have had hits in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bon Jovi did that too. I mean, I remember sitting on my parents' bed as a little kid when Slippery When Wet came out, and You Give Love a Bad Name, and I thought, whoa, this is cool.
Yeah.
Not as cool as Van Halen. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
But
you ain't really wrong. Cool. You ain't wrong there. I love Van Halen. I've always loved Van Halen.
Yeah.
Those dudes were something else. Those dudes were. Eddie Van Halen was, he was, without a doubt, he was one of the best ever. I put him up there with Stevie Ray Vaughan, you know. And the thing is, I didn't really listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan that much at the time. I didn't, he was kind of one of those that just all of a sudden one day I was like, oh my. And then it's kind of like I'd been listening to a band. They just kind of popped up on my streaming stuff on Pandora one day, and I was like, hey, I like them. And so I kind of looked them up. They're called it's kind of a alternative outlaw country band called Cross Canadian Ragweed. They're from out in Oklahoma, and I got to looking, and these guys had 14 albums, and had some, and so I get to researching them. It ends up they broke up in like 2000.
Oh no.
And I was like, how am I just now finding these guys? Which they get more, they're probably making more money now off streaming stuff than they ever did. But
I think I have this like thing about you connect with music by just some sort of event in your life. And I connected with Van Halen. I think I was 14 and I got a ride from church home from a dude that had like a 78 Camaro. And he had put in this Panasonic stereo system with subwoofers in the back. And the first song that he played was Mean Streets. And I mean, that just changed my whole world once I heard Mean Streets by Van Halen, and then I set up my cassette box with all the cassettes, Van Halen 1, 2, Mean Streets, and then, on up, 1984, OUA 1, 2, every one of them, as far as I could go.
Well, you said that. I had a buddy growing up, and you met him. He was on the Cahaba trip with us, Scotty and Marty, the two brothers.
Oh, yeah, great guy. Yeah, great guy.
Well, Marty had one of those, we called it Turd Brown, but it was a 76 Camaro. And that's what he had when we were in school. And he had just a killer stereo system in that thing. And we were out riding around one night, and we were listening to Motley Crue, and I can't remember the name of the cassette, but you remember how the cassettes, they would come to the end, and if one side was longer than the other, it would play for a long time without, and then it would flip over, right? Mm-hmm. Well, apparently the song had just ended, and we're driving along at night, and we're looking, and I was going, there was a rabbit sitting in the road, just sitting there. And I was like, that rabbit's going to have to move. We're fixing to hit that rabbit. And then all of a sudden the rabbit turned into an owl and flew right into the windshield of the car. Just scared us both. We weren't going fast. We were just cruising, back roads up here. But apparently the long side of the cassette the music had just gone off. Well, then the owl made us forget about it. So we went up and turned around, came back and was looking to, because we hit it pretty hard. And so we're looking for the owl, looking in the ditches and everything. We go down and we turn around and we come back up and we're stopped just looking, we got flashlights looking. And about the time that thing is sitting on a limb right up above us and it screams. And about the time that owl screams, the music started back. And I like to have jumped out of that car. It scared me to death because we had the volume cranked up, and of course, Motley Crue never started a song gently,
No.
So, but I was thinking about that a while back. So, oh man, well, we have just kind of been all over the place tonight. Well, all right, guys. If we hadn't got anything else, we've been going for close to an hour now, I guess. So
wow, it didn't feel like that long.
Yeah.
That's the way it is with you guys. Like even that first trip, I just felt like I knew y'all from the jump. You just sit down and talk with y'all forever.
Well, we're just simple folk.
We're just country boys.
Yeah, we're just simple folk. We're just not very hard to figure us out. So, well, all right, Crow. I appreciate you coming on, and Josh, and we'll hopefully we can get in one night next week and record one with Leonidas about our going a little bit more detail about our trip last week and kind of get his take on it. He had told me he wanted to do one, but I kind of wanted to get in with you and talk about some past trips and stuff. And then when he comes in next week, we'll try to dive into a little more detail about it. And maybe you can watch my video between now and then. And
I'm about to watch it right now.
And maybe yours will be out. I don't know when do you think yours will come out?
August.
Yeah, you sound about like me. I would do good to get one out a lot of times in several months.
Well, I sure do appreciate y'all letting me tag along with you. That was so much fun. I had an absolute blast.
Well, I hope that if we do it again in the fall, two things. I hope that between now and then, my life will kind of settle down a little. Of course, I don't know that it will because I am in 12 days, I'm starting work on my master's degree in education. So I tell people I'm just a late bloomer. I was 36 years old before I graduated with my bachelor's, and now I'm going to be 50 before I start on my I am 50 when I start on my master's. So, but it's just kind of that's just when it's worked out that I could do it. And so,
well, congrats on you going back and getting that done. That's awesome.
Well, I'm going back. I don't know how long or if I'll ever get it done, but we'll see how that goes. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll have to do this again. This is kind of fun just to get together during the week and chat and tell stories and all that kind of stuff. So,
well, we'll actually have to get together maybe with Dan and a few more people. Do a paddling trip on the river that shall not be named.
Oh yes. Yeah, it's always a beautiful day to float to Flint.
Yeah,
let's do it.
All right, guys, I appreciate it. I'm fixing to go ahead and end. Let's see. I guess I got to end the recording first and then end that. But like we always say, get out there and find your own adventure, because even bad adventures make great stories. Thanks for listening to us today, guys. See ya.
All right, folks, thanks for tuning in for this episode of Pine Thicket Philosophies. Tune in next time as we continue to live by our motto, even bad adventures make great stories.